right, looks like we're ready to go. Good evening, everyone. My name is Bob Gallagher, Chair of the City of Annapolis Board of Appeals. This is our special meeting for Wednesday, May 20th, 2020. And this is our first virtual meeting. The meeting is being broadcast on the City of Annapolis YouTube channel. It's my understanding that all of the city boards and commissions have moved to this virtual platform while the COVID emergency is in place. And we can talk a little bit more about what the changes are from our usual in-person meetings in just a minute or so. So I'd like to begin with a roll call of the board. If Ms. Hook, our recorder, would be so good as to do that for us.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Dr. Chen?
Present.
Mr. Zazali?
Present.
Mr. Dews?
Present.
Mr. Walsh?
Present.
Mr. Burnett?
Present.
Wonderful. We not only have a quorum, we have a full house. So as I was saying, this is our first virtual meeting, and staff has done a great job of putting this together, but there's no guarantee that there won't be some issues pop up as we go along, so please be patient and bear with us. Everyone except for board members, we ask you to keep yourself on mute except when you're speaking. When you wish to speak, if you'd please raise your hand and then I'll recognize you and you can unmute yourself. So the folks that you now see on the screen are members of the board. And is Ben Henry going to appear? Hillary, can you tell me?
I'm here.
Good. All right. And Ben Henry is counsel to the board. Also participating in the meeting, and you don't see on screen, is our recording secretary, Tammy Hook, and Hillary Raftovich is the boards and commissions coordinator for the city and handling the technical side of things. We also have city staff with us tonight. Cynthia Gudenius, Land Use and Development Planner, will be presenting tonight's application. Also for the city, we have participating Joelle Braithwaite, Assistant City Attorney, Council Department of Planning and Zoning, and Tom Smith, Chief of Current Planning, and Jacqueline Rouse, the Planning Administrator. So the process has been designed to replicate as much as possible the format we use in our in-person meetings. The main difference is that we do not have the capacity for the public to offer oral testimony as they would have the opportunity to do in a face-to-face hearing. And the way we're handling that is the public has been invited, offered the opportunity to file written comments. Any comments received up until noon today would have been passed along to the board. I understand there haven't been any in this case. And the board members would have had a chance to read them before we start the hearing. When the applicants have completed their case, we will recess the hearing in this case. And unlike in the normal case, we won't deliberate tonight. We'll postpone our deliberations until the next scheduled meeting, which I believe is on June 2nd. And so the public will have another opportunity to comment after tonight, once they've heard the presentation of staff and the applicants. And those comments need to be filed by noon on June 2nd, and the board will have them available to consider before we deliberate and make a decision on June 2nd. All the public testimony will be forwarded to all the members of the board. The staff will be entered into the record of the public hearing, and I think they'll also be posted on the city's eTrackit website in connection with the application that we're hearing. So when we begin the hearing in just a minute or two, the applicants and their representatives will appear on the screen. So let's move along and get to the application. Do we have has everyone had a chance, all the board members had a chance to review the agenda? Are there any changes or suggestions or corrections?
Motion to accept the agenda as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, the agenda has been accepted. First agenda item then is adoption of minutes from January 7th, 2020 and March 3rd, 2020, I believe was our last face-to-face meeting. Have we had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. So the next item on the agenda is a public hearing on an application for a variance. Hillary, can you bring the applicants into the live part of the hearing? Great. Ben, would you like to sort of call the case, or would you like me to do that?
Sure, I can call the case. Case VAR 202001, variance application by Jerry Leah Tills, trustee for reduction waterway and yard setback from 64 feet 9 inches to 28 feet 2 inches. Construct a 2-story addition.
Okay. And I believe Ms. Gudenius will introduce the case on behalf of the city. Is that right?
That's correct. Hi, I'm Cynthia Godenius. I'm planner with the Department of Planning and Zoning with the City of Annapolis. As stated, this is variance case VAR 2020-001. The location is 701 Warren Drive. That location is zoned R2, which is a single family residence district. It is located within the critical area. It has a designation of LDA, which stands for limited development areas. It also contains what's called the 100-foot buffer, and that has a designation of BEA, which stands for buffer exempt area. The application is for construction of a 2-story addition on the rear of the structure, which is the water side of the structure. The addition is for creating additional living space on the main level of the house. It is for to be wheelchair accessible, and the structure is about 140 square feet as far as its footprint, and it will be located in an area that already contains impervious deck materials. And with that, I will turn it over to the applicant's representatives.
Does any of the board members have questions for Ms. Gudenius?
No.
No. Cynthia, let me ask you. Doesn't the applicant really need a variance to 15 feet 7 inches?
No, that's the structure that's already there. The 15 feet 7 inches is for a deck structure that's already there.
All right, if you say so, you know more about it than I do. I just want to make sure they get what they need.
Yeah, they're going to keep the existing deck structures.
Okay, one more question. The last waterway set, we've had a couple of waterway setback cases. And as I recall, the code provides an alternate way of calculating the setback in some circumstances. Was that true here?
Well, the waterway yard setback is, there's 3 methods. It's the greater of either the zoning setback for either the side yard or rear yard, whichever is the case for the specific subject. It is either 30 feet or the larger of the averaging of primary structures distances to the water, and that those structures are within 300 feet of the subject property. So that was done, and that came out to the 64 feet, 9 inches.
All right. Well, let's hear from the applicant then, if there are no other questions.
Right, thank you. I'm Craig Martin from Spire Architecture. And,
All right, Mr. Martin?
and Matt Gregory is here, who also works in our office. Cynthia, how would you like us to proceed with the process? Do you want us to go bit by bit on the, I guess, the variance criteria, or should we go plan by plan, or what's the best way to not?
Well, let me answer for Cynthia.
Okay.
That's good.
We have read your application and the staff analysis carefully. And I think we have a pretty good understanding. If you think there are particular points that you'd like to emphasize or clarify, we invite you to do that, but you certainly don't need to go over the whole thing.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, we found that this was a pretty dicey amount of material, so I'll try and hit the highlights, and if there's anything, obviously, if there are any questions, glad to clarify. I think the main piece that became, I guess, apparent to us in this process was the strange wedge shape of the lot, and also the location of the existing structure that was so far towards the water, both on the lot itself and then with relation to all the other structures within the 300-foot diameter. So as you can see in the calculations, the Waterway yard average being 64 feet 9 inches. That is, as you can see, is indicated on the our Exhibit C, way past where the existing structure is. The 100-foot buffer is way past where the existing structure is, and the shaded area in blue that's on Exhibit C, that is the only, I guess, permitted buildable area. So in the conversations about how this happens, the conversation that we went through was, is there any place that's viable for doing this addition to provide the relief for this family to have some kind of living space on the main floor? And in the considerations for any of the spaces, things that were away from the water, it's kind of, if you integrate the floor plan and the site plan, on the main level, the places that are away from the water are either off of a bathroom, off of a kitchen, or off of a garage. So there was no real logical place away from the water that was logical planning wise. And all of those places would have been disturbing either non-disturbed soil, so it would have been a pervious surface that would be becoming impervious, also inside of the buffer, also outside of the buildable area, versus this area that was in line with the, I guess, the plan of the house, which was a real hardship, and then also existing impervious surface that not only is behind the facade of the house, which if you want to see on Exhibit C, which is point X on Exhibit C, that being in line with the green dashed line on Exhibit C, that's the built facade of the house, but also well behind the what is seen as structure, which is point Y, or the blue line. So what Cynthia was very adamant that we're asking for was the minimum necessary, and by all estimates that we could figure out in terms of setbacks, not disturbing any in situ soil or anything that was virgin soil, making sure that it was in line with the house, not disturbing light, views of any neighbors. This was pretty much the smallest thing that we could figure out how to wedge in this space without creating any difference in appearance, any real negative, I guess, influence on the site, and maintaining the existing, I guess, distances from the water. So that's kind of our thinking in a nutshell. Were there any things that, I guess, spoke out to the team or the reviewers that I can answer specifically, or any thoughts, anything that was, I guess, to Cynthia's point of where was the required variance? We had a discussion about that existing deck, knowing that if the existing deck was not to remain and that structure didn't remain, the structure that would be being asked for would be further out towards the water. So again, we didn't want to I guess, asked for more than we needed. So that will remain in place. The structure will remain in place. May get new physical decking on the top of the deck, but intentionally to not disturb any closer to the water than absolutely necessary.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board members? Oh, you guys earn your money.
Thank you. Yes, this is a lot of hoops. And we
Did
have a
you
lot of support.
get permission from the Board of Port Wardens?
I do not know. We have to-
I'm kidding.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Because this property, the chairman of the Board of Port Wardens is next door.
Oh, okay, good. I was like, that is there a requirement that we?
Jokes don't go over so well on Zoom, Bob.
Sorry.
It's better on Zoom than on conference call, though, I have to say.
Okay.
I do have one question, Craig, and I know that the code considers a deck impervious, whether it is or isn't, is subject to debate. Is the area, I'm looking at your elevation, Exhibit E, where the two gentlemen are loitering. Is that like a paver system, or is it wood over gravel? What is?
So the lower deck, it's a wood, slotted wood deck with dirt underneath. And then there are built up, I guess, planter boxes, and then above that is another deck. And what we did to try and find out, technically having two decks makes it impervious. We did our own, I guess, in situ study. How wet does that water actually get? And after a big storm, we went and removed some of the deck boards that were on the lower level, and it was dry as a bone underneath. So that was part of the process of trying to demonstrate that. I mean,
where does in that? So right now, where does the rainwater from the site? Can you walk me through basically the fall line of the site? Is it, if the rain that falls on the house, does it go to the street or does it go to the creek?
I think it probably goes both ways. The house is kind of on a bit of a ridge. So there's some slope that goes down the driveway to the front side of the house.
Yeah, I can see that.
Let me see if there's any topo.
I do see the driveway actually it looks pretty significantly sloped.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, slopes down towards the front. And then in the back, it's actually kind of flat, terraced on the back. They had done a lot of planting for remediation and tried to really maintain the retaining walls and a lot of planting in the back. And obviously because of the remediation, she has already started doing plantings to remediate for the required, just for her own, making the house better. So part of our planting plan has already actually been installed, even though we're not sure that where we are in the variance process. So
have you thought about the roof line and where the water from this new roof is going?
Only in that it was going up in the same fall area. We would assume that would go to the sides of that deck onto that, kind of the flat area in the reel. There's also a sump pump that would allow some of the pumping out from. Is that kind of the intention of where the stormwater will go? So the rooftop deck would get some of the water and could be done from a sump pump away from the water side.
Okay, so if we imposed some mitigation, some slowing down of this additional rainwater to the creek, you'd be amenable to considering
Of
that?
course. Yeah, she is very environmentally conscious. I don't know if anybody visited the site, but her attention to, I guess, maintaining kind of the bay grasses and things that are making it not just, a bunch of ivy so that it doesn't erode. She is very amenable to making it a viable experience or a nicer experience. So yes, any of those suggestions, I'm sure she'd be amenable.
Full disclosure, one of my properties is about 301 feet from this property. I didn't get the notification, but I did measure it. I wasn't supposed to.
That's cool.
But the site is properly posted, visible from the street. I know you're set back. Do you have evidence that you would care to submit that the sign was posted?
I think Matt took pictures when he installed it and submitted them to Cynthia. Glad to provide that if you need.
As long as Cynthia affirms that, I'm okay with it.
Yes, the property was posted with the sign for the amount of period that's required. And they also sent an affidavit of posting for that sign as well. The property was also, as far as the variance application, it was put in the newspaper. So that notice requirement was met, as well as the mailing notices were sent.
Thank you, Ms. Cynthia.
Anyone
That's it
else?
for me, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think we're nearly concluding our first virtual meeting. I thank everyone for their patience. Thank you, the applicant, for a good application presentation.
Oh, can I just get a few things on the record here real quick?
We're going to admit Exhibit 1, which is the staff
Yep.
report with all the exhibits.
Okay, and any recommendation, any conditions by staff that we need to say out loud, or was it straight?
Yeah, I can do that. I didn't know if you wanted to do that this week or next week, but yes.
Let's get it for the public to hear.
Okay, the staff has recommended approval, and there are 3 conditions. One of the conditions is that a buffer management plan be approved. That's an application that will be reviewed after this variance, if this is approved, to see, that they do planting for the mitigation required. There's a set of standards that they need to meet for doing the work within the 100-foot buffer. That review's pending based on this variance hearing results. Then there's a condition, and those are in the staff report, that says that the project will be built in substantial accordance with the plans that have been submitted. And then basically a standard condition that says that any permit that's required, they'll have to get before they start construction.
Cynthia, how would we get Christian's suggestion about drainage into, we get it in the buffer management plan or in the stormwater management plan?
I think we would pick that up in deliberation and decide whether at that time to add something.
I think that's correct. During deliberation, you would come up with an additional condition.
That sounds fine. All right, so we are closing the hearing for tonight, actually recessing it until June 2nd. I'm sorry, my apologies to the applicants that we can't process it tonight, but under this new virtual meeting procedure, we
world
have to
we're
wait and give
part
the
of.
public another opportunity to comment. So Cynthia will see that we get any comments that are submitted by noon on the 2nd of June. And at the meeting, the regular meeting on June 2nd, we'll conduct our deliberations and give you a decision.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you for being so flexible.
Any other business we need to deal with, lady and gentlemen? No? Well, again, thank you all for your patience. I think it's been a successful virtual meeting. Look forward to seeing your mugs on my laptop on June 2nd.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
So
Second.
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting's adjourned.
You.
See you, gang.
See ya.